Good day everyone, my name is Maria Elizabeth A. Salboro and I am going to discuss institutional correction. Coverage: institutional-based correction, structure, management, standard, program and services in the Philippines, two system-based approach to correction, the Bureau of Correction, RA 10575, custody, security, and control of prisoner, care and treatment of prisoner, release of prisoner, good conduct time allowance, prohibited act subject to disciplinary action, BGMP, RA 6975, Republic Act 9263, treatment of special need or unusual offender, emergency plan, movement, transfer of prisoner, detained privilege of detained and sentenced prisoners, the Regional Rehabilitation Center for Youth, the Child and Youth Welfare Code, the Death Row, and the Rule of Right of Amparo. Institutional correction. Institutional correction facilities includes prisons and jails. Prisons are the state's or federal house facility that confines convict felon with sentence typically longer than a year. Jail are administered by local law enforcement and hold those who serve sentence unusual for 1 year or less, and those awaiting trial. So, example, if nanay nadakpan, then mag-wait sila og mga trials, they will go to the jail. Pero if nana sila sentence like guilty sila, they will go to prison. What is institutional-based correction and how does it work? So the difference is community-based correction are you either placed on parole or giving probation, and institutional-based correction means that the individual is placed in a jail or prison, which means they are housed in a secured correctional facility. What is different between institutional and non-institutional? The difference is that a non-institutional investor is an individual person, and an institutional investor is some types of entity, a pension fund, mutual fund company, bank, insurance company, or any other large institution. What is the main purpose of institutional correction? Correction focus on rehabilitation and regarding inmates as patients who need treatment and guidance in order to become productive and responsible member of society upon their release. So, if ang nasa sulod ani nga rehabilitation is i-treat sila kay basin na sila kanang diferensya sa utok, so they will treat as a responsible member of society. Structure. A structure is an arrangement or organization of interrelated elements in a material, object, or system. Or objects or system organized. Material structures include man-made objects such as building and machines, and natural objects such as biological organism, mineral, and chemical. Abstract structure includes data structures in computer science and musical form. Management standard. The management standard demands control, support, relationship, role. So demand includes issues such as workload, work pattern, and the work environment. Control: how much say the person has in the way they do their work. So the person will know how to control their work. Support: this includes the encouragement, sponsorship, and resource provided by the organization, line management, and colleges. Relationship: this includes promoting positive working to avoid conflict and dealing with unacceptable behavior. Role: whether people understand their role within the organization and whether the organization ensure that they do not conflicting rules. So let's go to program and services in the Philippines. Pantawid Pamilya Pilipino Program, kalahi CIDSS, kapit bisig laban sa kahirapan, comprehensive and integrated delivery of social services, listahanan, National Household Targeting System for Poverty Reduction, Sustainable Livelihood Program, Supplementary Feed Program, Social Pension Program, Resident Care Facility, Home for Girl, Regional Center for Women, Regional Rehabilitation Center for Youth, Recovery and Reintegration Program for Trafficked Person, Assistance to Individual in Crisis Situation, Minor Traveling Abroad, Adoption, Unconditional Cash Transfer. So, Pantawid Pamilya Pilipino. Pantawid Pamilya is a condition cash transfer CCI program that provide cash grants to poor household which children 0 to 14 years old and pregnant mothers provide that they comply with the conditions set by the program. So, Pantawid Pamilya, I heard a lot of rumors about this na if kanang mga publika ayo kay ilang panghatagan, I don't know if every month na sila mahatag pero every 6 months. So, it is a social assistance program that provides conditional cash assistance to the poor and alleviated their initial need, short-term poverty alleviation, and it is a social development program that aims to break integration poverty cycle through investments in human capital, child's right protection. So, kalahi CIDSS. So, the kapit bisig laban sa kahirapan, comprehensive and integrated delivery for social services or kalahi CIDSS program is poverty alleviation program of the DSWD that use a community-driven development approach. The program provides resources to poor rural municipal for public goods investment and promotes people particular participation in governance. So, kalahi CIDSS uses the community-driven development approach to empower local communities through capacity buildings and implementation support for participation in local governance and provision of barangay grants for involving in this design and implementation of poverty reduction project. National Household Targeting System for Poverty Reduction. So, an information management system that identifies who and where the poor household are in the region and in the whole Philippines. A system for regenerating and establishing a social economic database for poor household. Sustainable Livelihood Program. So, the Sustainable Livelihood Program is a community-based program which provides capacity building to improve the program participants' economic state. First is support micro enterprises to become organizationally and economically viable. Second, it links participants to employed opportunities. Supplementary Feeding Program. The Supplementary Feeding Program is the provision of food in addition to the regular meals to currently enrolled daycare center children. This is a form of hot meals and recommended by Food and Nutrition Research Institute, FNRI, and serve during break time to children in daycare center. So, I don't think it's only for daycare kay nasulayan na ako when I was in elementary na ay pa-feeding program. Lunch to sila manghatag og mga foods na free for everyone sa mga estudyante. So, social pension. So, the social pension for indigent senior citizen is one of the provisions state under Section 5 Republic Act 9994, otherwise known as Expanded Senior Citizen Act of 2010. Social pension in additional government assistance is in the amount of 500 pesos only monthly, tended to argument and daily sustainable of other medical needs of indigent senior citizens, subject to review every 2 years by Congress in consultant with the DSWD. So social pension is, I heard about this kay manghatag sila every month na sila tag 500, pero muhatag di sila karon every 3 months sila muhatag. So after 3 months na sila madawat nga 1.5 sa mga senior citizen. Residential care facility. So residential care is a term used to describe the general care and support provided in the standards earlier care home. It comes from being referred to as personal care or even assisted living, as usual involve help with basic needs such as washing, dressing, mobility, assistant, and so on. So this is generally what is required for the most of residents of our hotels. Often residential care homes simply referred to as care homes, whereas nursing homes and referred by the Care Quality Commission as care homes with nurses. So a care home is residential settling where a number of old people living, usual in single rooms, and have to one-site care services 24 a day. A home registered simple as a care home where generally provide personal cares and support such as help with washing, dressing, and giving medication. Further assistance can be given such as helping to eat meals, promoting mobility, to keep agile, as so on. So, some care homes are registered to meet and specific care needs. For example, dementia or terminal illness or end of life care. So, care facilities is, I heard about this nga kanang murag wala man na kayo diri sa Philippines, but other countries they will, if mga gulang kay ilang gipamutang sa care nursing home or care homes para dito na stay ang mga gulang para na mobantay nila. Homes for girls. Home for girls as a temporary residential facility is an alternative form of family care providing 24-hour group living on temporary basis to girls below 18 years old with special needs where needs cannot be accumulated, met by their own families and relative other period of time. Residential services provide opportunities for the residents to be adequately cared for temporarily under a controlled therapeutic environment with the end view of reunion, of re-irrigation with their family and to the community to lead a normal life. Regional Center for Women, a resident care for abused women and their children established in cooperation with Congressional Spouse Foundation and INC. The center caters to women and children who were victims of rape, incest, involuntary prostitution, and illegal recruitment, domestic violence, and abandonment. So, kaning nga sa mga regional care for women kay ang nadito kay murag mga na-rape, na trauma sa mga kuan, domestic violence. So, dito na sila gipamutang para mutabang ni sila sa mga tawong nanginahanglan. So, if offers protective and rehabilitative services as well as conduct skills training to its residents so that they can learn basic livelihood skills. So, kaning regional center kay murag mutudlo pud sila sa mga skills nga livelihood sa para sa panginabuhi nila. So, target clients of RCW are disadvantaged women and children who are victim of domestic violence, battered of physical abuse, victim of illegal recruitment, victim of involuntary or forced prostitution, victim of illegal recruitment, and child who are victim of neglected and abandonment. Regional Rehabilitation Center for Youth. The Regional Rehabilitation Center for Youth is a residential facilities for children in conflict with the law age 15 years old and below 18. The center aims to provide the ambience of a house for their reformation. Recovery and Reintegration Program for Trafficked Person. Department of Social Welfare and Development is mandated to provide social protection to trafficked person. This was implemented to scales up to program and services and deliver better interventions to trafficked person and various levels. To strengthen exist program for traffic victims and their families and support capacity buildings activities for services provisions. Assistance to individual families in crisis situation. The assistance to individuals in crisis situation is a society safe net or a stopgap mechanized to support the recovery of individuals and families from unexpected crises such as illness or death or of a family members or other crisis institution. So, when we say crisis, kay murag nanggakalisod na, so, kaning assistant to individual or family in crisis situation, kay murag mo help sila sa mga sa mga kinahanglan like illness, so mutabang sila sa mga naisakit. Minor traveling abroad, so a minor who is subject or ongoing custody battle between parents will not be issued a parents travel permit or travel clearance unless a court order is issued to allow the child to travel abroad with either one of his or her parents or another guardian. So, dili pwede moadto gawas ang mga minor na bata. Kinahanglan naa pa sila yung mga guidance sa parents. If ang court mo issued nga pwede siya, so maybe mo ingon ang court na okay kanang mukuyog ang one of parents na usa mo kuyog sa pamilya nila or kinsa man ang guardian nga makakuyog. So let's go to adoption. So when we say adoptions kay kanang nani murag isa ka facility nga na yung mga bata dito, so nga walay mga parents. So adoption, a social legal process of providing a permanent family to a children whose parents have voluntarily or involuntarily relinquished parents' authority over the child. Having been adopted, such as a child legal made of the son or daughter of someone other than biological parents, he introduced us to his adopted daughter. So, how long in the process of adoption in the Philippines? Currently, families in our Philippines adoption programs write an average of 9.4 months to be matched with their child upon submitting their contact. The typical adoptions timeline in our Philippines adoption programs is 21 months from submittal of contact of waiting with your child. So, if you would say na how can I adopt a child? So, what to do? So, know your reasons for adopting and accept your limits. So, kinahanglan mo adopt ka na ay reason nga ganahan ka magkaanak. For example, if dili ka mag-aanak, so mo adopt kung ingani. So, decide with adoption path is right for you. Choose your adoption professionally, carefully. Prepare for the home study. Decide how open you want adoption to be. Know the cost. A note for single, unmarried, and LGBTQ prospective adoptive parents. So, pwede ni siya sa mga single or unmarried, sa mga LGBTQ. Let's go to conditional cash transfer program. The unconditional cash transfer program is the biggest tax reform mitigation program under the Train Law. It seeks to provide cash grants to poor households and individuals who may not benefit from the lower income tax rate but may adversely affect by raising. UCT provides qualified beneficiary cash grants compute at 200 pesos per month for the first year of implementation and the third 3,000 pesos per month for each succeeding year of implementation. Two approaches of correction. The institutional correction focus on rehabilitation and regarding to inmates as patients who need treatment and guidance in order to become productive and responsive members of the society in their release. So, non-institutional correction is or release or recognized law provide the community-based approach. It is referred to release of offender charged with an offense corrections activities that may take place. Those penalties in more than 6 months within the community or the method of or a fine of 2,000. The Bureau of Correction Republic Act 10575. The Directorate for External Relationship shall be responsible for re-release and post-release programs for inmates due for release. There shall also classified inmates according to skills acquired for refill and endorsement to appropriate companies for corporations practicing in the Bucor on the job training program for newly reformed inmates. The DER shall also evaluate, classify, and apply necessary programs to inmate for readiness to join the menstruate society upon release. So, apart from handling inmates, the Bucor shall administratively operate like standards government agencies through its administrative directorates with internal controls and internal audit unit. So, the Bucor shall employ full compensation in the build-up, maintaining and transmittal of necessary inmates record to all the prison and penal farm and other recipients agencies. So, custody. Custody is the state of physical holding of controlling a person of or piece of property or of having the right to do. A person who has custody over property or another person often have affirmative duties to protect and care for those in their charge In the law, custody is used in criminal or family law. Security and control of prison. So, prison security is crucial to maintaining staff and inmate staff in correctional settings. Security in prison includes, but it is not limited to, managing respective housing populations, classifications and assessment, management special population and security audits. Care and treatment of prisoner. All prisoners shall be treated with the respect due to their inherent dignity and values as human being. So even if nasa day nabuhat nga daotan like kanang ni commit sila crime, we should all respect them as a person kay they are also human being. There shall be no discrimination on the ground of race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other options, national or social origin, property, birth or other states. So even if kaning dili ta mo discriminate kung sa sila nga color, like naay negro nadakpan, so ato silang i-discriminate nga hala negro nadakpan ana na dito. So we have kanang mo hatagtag katahuran nila, dili ta mo discriminate nila kay also they are also a human being. It is however described to respect the religion, belief and culture precept of a group to which prisoners belong whenever local conditions so required. So kanang dili if like na mag-iuban nga religions nga lahi-lahi og katuuhan, so if unsay giingon sa mga lain nga kanang cultures, so mo respect na sa mga prisoners nga naa dito. So the responsibility of prison for the custody of prisoners and for the protection of society against crime shall be discharged in keep with the state's other social objects and its fundamental responsibilities for promoting the well-being and development for all members of society. Release of prison. So, release preparation to BOP will begin to prepare for release 18 months before your release due. Much of this focuses on preparing you to find work after you leave prison. So the program includes cases on topics such as job search, resume writing, and job retention. So release of prison kay murag mo help sila og pangitahan kag trabaho kay lisod mangud if gikan ka sa kanang prisuhan, lisod ka makakita sa og trabaho sa gawas. So transfer to pre-release custody. In many cases, you won't go straight from the prison to your home. The federal system uses a system called pre-release custody. By law, you should be allowed to spend the last part of your sentence in pre-release custody. This could be in a halfway house, community correction center, in home confinement. So, third, release of prison kay supervised release. In the federal system, supervised release takes the place of parole. You will spend some time after you actual release from custody under supervision. The condition of this depends on many factors, including the crimes that spend you to prison and your behavior inside. Full release. So after you complete your supervised release, you will finish your sentence in full. You won't have to report to BOP or anyone else anymore. So pwede na ka makadiretso og adto sa balay ay kanang direct sa inyo hadjud makauli naka. So good conduct time allowance. A good conduct time allowance or GCTA is a sentence reduced provision afford prisoners who shown good behavior. It has been exist since 1906. Act number 1533 prohibited from the diminution of sentence imposed upon prisoners in consideration of good conduct and diligence. So, let's go to Probation Act subject to disciplinary action. So, participation in illegal sex act, public display for pornographic materials, obscene language, and display of any behavior which might lead to disorder or violence. Passionate of article posting threats to prison security of insulting any religious belief or groups, giving gifts, selling, or engaging in barters with any gamblings, lottings, rendering personal services to or requirements personal services from inmates. So, like kanang Provision Act subject to disciplinary action kay dapat walay pornographic materials or public display nga mga pornographic lagi, tapos kanang selling nga nagbarters, tapos murag nagkuan ba kanang naggambling, bawal na siya. BGMP RA 6975 otherwise known as Department of Interior and Local Government Act of 1990, that the task of fire protection and jail management and penology shall be the responsibility of Bureau of Fire Protection or BFP, and the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology BGMP respectively. So what is RA 69 all about? So Republic Act number 6975 established in the Philippine National Police under the reorganized Department of the Interior and Local Government. This law stated the PNP is supposed to have a maritime police unit to observe the police function of the Coast Guard and to be provided with a sea capability. So what is the purpose of BGMP? So BGMP mandate to direct, supervise, and control the administration and operation of all district, city, and municipal jail nationwide with broad task of safekeeping and development of PDL. What was RA 6975 took effect? So the promulgation of Republic Act 6975, otherwise known as Department of Interior and Local Government, organize and institute to the call for tangible reform in the community public safety services, particular for the unformed bureaus under the ILG. Treatments for special needs or unusual offenders. So effective treatments of preparation for success regression can be better achieved if the needs and risks of incarcerated offenders are taken into conditions by correctional participation of scholar. Special need offender in correctional institution offers a unique opportunity to examine the different population behind bars. So as well as their needs and the responding in demand for rehabilitation and reintegration. Special needs offenders are incarcerated offenders with special needs stemming from their physical and mental age or other disabilities. Special needs can encompass many types of conditions like offenders with several psychological needs, mental reduction, significant physical disorder, behavior disorder, multiple handicaps, neurological impairment, and substance abuse. Or offenders with physical handicaps or chronic or treatment illness or elderly offenders. Offenders with several social and education deficiency, learning disability, and language barrier. Offenders with special security or supervision needs such as protective custody case, death row inmates, and those who chronic exhibit potential and aggressive behavior. Sex offenders for women apprehended treatments by reduce the risk of reoffending. Substance abuse is a major cause of creating special needs offenders in the society. Special need offenders are to be given special attention during intakes and incarceration. Prepared evaluation and assessment has to be conducted during intakes of those offenders. The state departments of corrections and various other agencies work closely in treatment process of special needs offenders through programs such as community policing, community-based correction, and community citizen integration. So because the definition of special need offenders varies gladly, local laws should be consulted for requirements in your area. So emergency plan. An emergency plan specific pursued for handling sudden of an unexpected situation. An object is to be prepared to prevent facilities and injuries, reduce damage to buildings, stock and equipment, protect the environment and community. So emergency plans, example of this kanang na mga flood, you have to prepare for what will happen. Emergency plan. The lack of an emergency plan could lead to several losses such as multiple casual and possible financial collapse of the organization. Since emergency will occur, pre-planning is necessary and arguments needs for rapid decision, shortage of time, and lacks of resourcement. And training personnel can lead to chaos during an emergency. Time and circumstances in emergency means the normal channels of authority and communication cannot be relied upon to functions renewally. The stress of situation can lead to poor judgmental resulting in several losses. A well thought out, well organized emergency response plan will help to eliminate those issues. So emergency plan. An emergency plan specific produced for handling sudden and unexpected situation. The object is to be prepared to prevent facilities and injuries, reduce damage to building, stock and equipments, protect the environments and community, accelerated the resumes of normal operation. So transfer of prisoner. Transfer of prisoner. Prisoner may be transferred from other prison to another for a number of reasons. For example, their security category has changed so that they can serve the final week of their sentence in a prison near their homes. The prisoner sentence plan requires them to complete a course which is not available at prison they are in. They are behaving in disruptive way. Categorized a prison or routinely moved from time to time from security reasons for their own safety in their being bullied. And the main visitors has a medical problem making visits possible. So For the own category person, does a prisoner have a legal rights to be transferred to different prison in they wish? So, no. The Prison Act 1952 says they can be held in any prison. Usually, it is upon the government whether they are transferred, except for category of prisoners or people serving a life sentence, in which case prison's headquarters makes the decision. However, although in no legal rights, the prison service does have location policy starting that conduct between a prisons and his or her family should be encouraged at the harmful effect of being removed from normal life and mind. The prison also have obligation to take responsibility steps to keep a prisoner safe, which may include transfer in they are being billed. Classification of sentenced prisoners. Insurance or national prisoners. Those who were sentenced to serve a prison terms for over 3 years or to pay a fine more than 1,000 pesos or both fine and imprisonment. These sentenced to suffer a term of over 3 years imprisonment and appealed the judgment and unable to file bond for their temporary liberty. City prisoners, these who were sentenced to suffer an imprisonment for at least less than 3 years, to pay fine not more than 1,000 or both, includes these who were detained. Those cases were filed with the MTC and those whose cases are organized by the RTC under preliminary investigation. Provincial prison. This person sentenced to suffer a term of imprisonment from 6 months and 1 day to 3 years of fine more than 1,000 pesos or both. This is detained while waiting for preliminary investigation for the case cognition by the RTC. Municipal prison. These confined to serve an imprisonment for not confined than 6 months. These detained therein who trials of their cases are pending with MTC. So, the child and welfare youth. This article describes the basic objects and components of community-based programs that available to minors who have committed less serious offense in the Philippines. So, Presidential Decree number 603, otherwise known as the Child and Youth Welfare Code, and issued in December 1974, legally defines special category of youth, including youthful offenders and direct of Ministry of Social Services and Development to provide comprehensive services to assist in the youth development. The death row. The death row, also known as condemned row, is a place in a prison that houses inmates awaiting execution after being convicted of capital crime and sentenced to death. The term is also used frequently to describe the states of waiting execution, being on death row even in place where no special facility or separate until the commands inmate exist. So, death row is kanang maghulat kas imo execution kung kano sa ka patyon kay if nakay na convict nga mas malala sa imong nabuhat. So, they will put you into the execution. In the United States, after a person is found guilty of capacity offense in states where execution is legal penalty. The judge will give the jury the option of imposing a death sentence or life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. It is then up to a jury to decide whether to give the death sentence. This usually has to be an anonymous decision. If the jury agrees with the death, the defined will remain on the death row during appeal. Habeas corpus proceed which may continue for several decades. Rule of the right of amparo. The petition of right of amparo is the remedy available to any person who right to life, liberty, and security is violence of threatens with violations by an unlawful act or omission of a public officials or employee or of a private individual or entity. The petition may be filed on any days at any time with the regional trial court of the place where the threat, act of omissions were committed or any its elements occurs, or with the Sandigan Bayan, the Court Appeals, the Supreme Court, or any justice of such court. So what is right of amparo important? So the right of amparo is legal proceed to protect human rights. Under the new legal remedy, states authority can no longer use as defense that they do not know where the missions person are. Is an amparo an injunction? Amparo is Argentina is a limited summary emergency proceed and merely supplementary requiring provisions, exhaustion and of administrative remedies before rendition of judgments of mandamus or injunction. The decision bars monetary awards and penal provision expect contempt or declaration of unconstitutionally. So that's all for the report. Thank you for listening.